The White House lashed out at disgraced partisan hack James Comey and known liar Andrew McCabe on Friday after a report that the FBI, after President Trump fired James Comey, opened a secret inquiry into whether Trump had been working on behalf of Russia against American interests. The investigators working on the inquiry had to access whether Trump's actions could constitute a possible national security threat. The agency tried to determine whether the president was working for Russia or had fallen under the Kremlin's influence. The probe into Trump also looked into possible criminality, in particular the May 2017 firing of James Comey, and whether that could be deemed an obstruction of justice, even though he was a blatantly obvious, horrible FBI director that broke many FBI policies. But the timing of the investigation raises questions, as both Comey and FBI lawyer Lisa Page told House investigators last year that by the time the FBI director was fired and special counsel appointed, there was no hard evidence of collusion between the Trump campaign and the Kremlin. In fact, when I was fired as director, I still didn't know whether there was anything to it, James Comey said in a recent testimony, according to the transcript. Trump fired back on early Saturday morning, slamming the corrupt former leaders of the FBI for opening an investigation on him after firing James Comey, who he called a total sleaze. Wow, just learned in the failing New York Times that the corrupt former leaders of the FBI, almost all fired or forced to leave the agency for some very bad reasons, opened up an investigation on me for no reason and with no proof, after I fired Lion James Comey, a total sleaze, he wrote in his tweet. Funny thing about James Comey, everybody wanted him fired, Republican and Democrat alike, after the rigged and botched crooked Hillary investigation, where she was interviewed on July 4th weekend, not recorded or sworn in, and where she didn't know anything, a lie, where she said she didn't know anything. Trump continued, adding that my firing of James Comey was a great day for America. He was a crooked cop. The White House also pushed back against the report on Friday, calling the insinuations of working for Russia totally absurd and pointed to the administration's record towards Russia. This is absurd. James Comey was fired because he's a disgraced partisan hack, and his deputy, Andrew McCabe, was in charge at the time. Is a known liar fired by the FBI, White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders said. Unlike President Obama, who let Russia and other foreign adversaries push America around, President Trump has actually been tough on Russia, she added. Comey didn't directly respond on the story or Trump's comments, only tweeting a quote from a former President Franklin D. Roosevelt saying, "I ask you to judge me by the enemies I've made." The allegation of the FBI opening a counterintelligence investigation into Trump may cause a further rift between the FBI and the president, who in the past has criticized the agency's senior leadership, alleging an anti-Trump bias. Many don't really believe he made a good choice in Christopher Wray. I mean, just look at his connections and who he's worked with and friendly with. He's not going to want to be harsh on certain people. Among those FBI officials accused of bias were former senior counterintelligence agency agent Peter Strzok, who was fired amid revelations of his anti-Trump and pro-Hillary Clinton text messages with another FBI official, Lisa Page. McCabe, a former FBI deputy director, meanwhile was fired in March ahead of his planned retirement following a bombshell report by the Justice Department Inspector General, Michael Horowitz, that claimed McCabe lied to investigators, and his then boss Comey at least 4 times lied under oath. The former deputy director reportedly authorized a leak to a newspaper reporter about the contents of a telephone call in August 2016 in order to cast himself in a positive light in an upcoming story about an investigation involving Hillary Clinton. So they were just lost in their dirtiness. According to the Times, senior FBI officials became suspicious of Trump and his alleged ties to Russia during the 2016 presidential campaign, but decided not to pursue an investigation at the time. The president's decisions and the firing of Comey is what prompted the agency to launch the inquiry, supposedly, giving them an excuse. The FBI investigation has since been taken over by Special Counsel Robert Mueller, who is examining the possibility of collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia. There's no indication, however, that Mueller is continuing to pursue the counterintelligence matter. How he's not pursuing that, I don't know, because isn't collusion, isn't that part of counterintelligence? It's like people don't make any sense with what they're saying. They're saying Mueller's not pursuing the counterintelligence investigation, but isn't he investigating Russia and possible collusion with Trump? How is that not counterintelligence investigation? The whole special counsel thing was supposed to based on counterintelligence, because there was no actual crime that's even been stated. The whole thing was not even started correctly. The whole thing is just a big mess. The former law enforcement officials told the newspaper that criminal and counterintelligence elements of the investigation were combined because Trump's firing of the FBI director could constitute both a crime and a national security threat. Even though it was his total right to do so and he was a horrible FBI director, it would hinder the agency's abilities to learn how the Kremlin interfered in the 2016 election. Not only would it be an issue of obstructing an investigation, but the obstruction itself would hurt our ability to figure out what the Russians had done, and that is what would be the threat to national security. James A. Baker, who served as FBI General Counsel until late 2017, said during a private testimony before House investigators in October. This is all according to the New York Times.